All right. Hey, guys. Once again, you're listening to the Full Court Press podcast. We are your all-in-one stop for trade rumors, off-season predictions, and just all-around hoops talk. JD, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, Doc?
Good. I'm excited for this episode. I'm really excited. So, guys, today we're going to go through our final mock draft before the actual draft takes place, which is next Thursday, right? It's next Thursday, isn't it?
7 days from now.
I am so excited. And our listeners know that we essentially built this channel so we could talk about things like the draft, and we're both really high on this year's draft too. It's very saturated, so we have a little presentation ready for you guys. And JD, do you want to tell them a little bit about that?
Yeah, what we got going here is we've comprised essentially a ton of the rumors, all the rumors that we've been able to find regarding the draft, this 2023 NBA mock draft. Essentially, we're going to be putting together. We have a ton of rumors, and so we feel like it's beginning to paint a picture of what is actually going to be happening 7 days from now. And so what we got going is we've got a little mock draft simulator here that me and Doc are going to go through, as well as some stats from some slides we got pulled up.
All right, so how we're going to do this format as well is we're just going to alternate picking these draft prospects for these teams, and we're going to try to go objectively while still understanding that rumors are rumors, looking at potential and best fit. So with the number one pick, I think this is a no-brainer. This is 100% guarantee. Exactly. Amen, Thompson. I was going to say Dereck Lively. The San Antonio Spurs are taking Victor Wembanyama. So if you guys are not familiar with this kid, listen up. He's 19 years old. He's 7'4" without shoes, 220. He's leading the French league in rebounds and blocks. He's second in scoring. But what really makes this kid special, in my opinion, is his discipline and work mentality. A lot of guys, well, I don't want to say a lot. I don't want to generalize. What I do want to say is it can be very easy when you are this young and you have this kind of hype to start drinking your own Kool-Aid. I think that can be very dangerous for young athletes. But Victor Wembanyama is not drinking his Kool-Aid at all. I think he understands what he is capable of. He has a great team around him. He has the most superior basketball genetics we have ever seen. And for a kid as young as he is, he's able to really tune out the distractions. Brian Windhorst of ESPN published a great article, a piece on Victor Wembanyama, where he actually went to France and got to meet him and got to talk to him and really got to do a good deep dive into the thought process of this young man. In my opinion, there's nothing that's going to keep this kid from being transcendent but injury. If he has some sort of catastrophic injury, that would be the only way that this kid does not enter the stratosphere of NBA greats. What do you think? What do you think, JD?
I think that Victor is kind of like a unicorn. He's touted as the greatest prospect of all time, next to LeBron James, or at least a lot of agents and scouts are saying something like that. And it's very interesting because since the beginning of the year, we've seen a lot of fluctuation with a lot of people, but he's remained on top. And something I love about Victor is that he is somebody that is 7'5", 7'4", 7'5", but he plays like a guard. He's like a Kevin Durant and a Rudy Gobert mixed together. And you can see, Rudy Gobert's a giant and Victor's still taller than him. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I am so excited for next season, not just to watch Victor Wembanyama, who's going to be box office, but what really excites me is thinking about the Rookie of the Year race that's not just going to take place with Scoot and Victor, but Chet Holmgren as well, because it's going to be his first year playing. I'm so excited. I cannot wait for that. All right, hey JD, who you taking at number 2, man?
Well, this is where the draft actually starts to get pretty interesting.
I agree.
And what we've seen from reports from Charlotte is that the front office likes Brandon Miller. Most teams, and this is per Bleacher Report, most teams have Brandon Miller rated above Scoot Henderson. And even despite that, I am wanting to choose Scoot Henderson as the number 2 pick going in. And I actually think that Charlotte will choose Scoot Henderson. And here's why. I think, for me at least, Scoot Henderson is the best available player coming in. And a lot of times you'll be reading these mock drafts, seeing Brandon Miller ahead of Scoot Henderson, saying that it's just a great fit. It's a great fit alongside LaMelo Ball, who's maybe more of a ball-dominant guy, things like that. And I guess there is some merit to it. But if I'm the Charlotte Hornets, it's like I cannot be thinking about stuff like that when I have such a losing record. I need to find the best talent available, and I need to just keep going forward. And who's to say that Scoot and LaMelo can't work out together? You know, they could be a very good dynamic duo and maybe one of the better backcourts in the league of the future. And so, you know, just to think of fit right now when you're not the best team in the NBA, I think is a little silly. What do you think, Doc?
I 100% agree with you. I think that all this Brandon Miller talk is a complete smokescreen. I think that the Charlotte Hornets would be out of their mind to not take Scoot Henderson here. No team who is this high up in the draft should be worried about fit. How about you guys get some good core players, some franchise pieces first, and then you figure out the rest later. I don't think that the Hornets have the luxury of not taking Scoot Henderson. I totally agree with you. This kid's been playing pro ball now since he was 17 years old. You know, he has 2 years under his belt. Look at that hair too. I'm loving that hair. This was his first year as a starter in the G League. He did shut it down, which gives me a little bit of cause for concern. And I am a little worried about injury with Scoot because he's so explosive and athletic. I'm terrified that he's going to get hurt, kind of like how Derrick Rose did, and that would just break my freaking heart. Outside of that, though, as long as he takes care of his body, he's a cerebral player. He knows how to play against pros. Like, this kid is NBA ready right now, and he's going to make a major impact. Charlotte, don't pass this kid up. Don't pass this kid up. All right, so number 3, okay, the Portland Trailblazers. So this pick is interesting because I don't even know if they're going to have it. They seem very dedicated on not moving Damian Lillard and moving this pick so they can get Dame the help he wants. And honestly, I don't think that is the wisest decision from their front office, but I can understand the loyalty aspect to Dame, a guy who has been loyal to the soil since day one. And I love that. No, I can't. With that said, I know they're trying to find an elite shooting forward. And, you know, if they had more time on the clock, like Brandon Miller actually could be that. Like, he has that potential. However, I'm going to select Amen Thompson here.
You are?
I am. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So, if I'm running the front office in Portland, my plan is to sit down with Dame, tell him how much we love him, and we'll send him wherever he wants to go. And we're going to make that work. If he wants to go to Miami, we will find a way to do it. It won't be just at the whim of whatever the best trade package is. I think that's the least you can do for a guy of Damian Lillard's caliber and pedigree. But the reason I'm taking Amen Thompson is because you put this kid who's 6'7" and is a great ball handler next to Shaedon Sharpe. You got a nasty athletic backcourt of the future. And I'm loving that. So that is going to be my pick. I think that this kid is going to take some time to develop. But honestly, if I'm Portland, I'm just going to rip this thing down to the studs anyways. I'm going to send Dame somewhere where he can compete right now before his prime is up. And I'm just going to look to the future.
I've got to say, Doc, I am not a fan of this pick. And I don't think this is very possible. I think that they would be taking Brandon Miller over Amen Thompson. I think that Portland's probably in the same boat as Charlotte. They want to find the best available player. I think Brandon Miller would be the best available player, as he was the best college player in the country.
He was.
It's just tough for me to choose Amen Thompson, who has a really great ceiling, very, very potential superstar. But at the same time, I think he has a very low floor as well. He's not the best shooter. In fact, both the Thompson twins, as we'll get into, are not the best shooters. But he is worse of the two. And he does have great vision. But, I'd be afraid to pick him at 3, especially with Brandon Miller still up, who is a potential really great player as well.
Hear me out on this. Shot mechanics can be worked on. These guys are going to be making a exorbitant amount of money. There are shot doctors all over the United States. You can work and fix your shot and your fundamentals. What you cannot work on is the size and athleticism that Amen Thompson has. You can't just grow yourself to 6'7" and have his wingspan and his type of athleticism. You can train to be an athlete, but this kid just is an athlete. Him and Shaedon Sharpe together would be the most athletic backcourt in the entire NBA. It's not even close. Not even close. Depending on who you pair. What's that kid from Houston's name? Is that Jalen Green?
Jalen Green.
Yeah, he's explosive as well. If you put Amen Thompson next to him as well, you'd have something special. But Shaedon Sharpe is a tall, athletic, just burst of power. So is Amen Thompson. I think that they could just annihilate teams off of a fast break. And that's why I'm taking him. I think Brandon Miller is a very, very successful. He had a very successful college career. And he's going to be great. But if I'm Portland, I'm thinking about securing the most athletic backcourt I can, and I'm going to fix my front court later.
It's an interesting perspective. I just feel like if you choose Amen, who's typically going at 4 through 6, something like that, over somebody like Brandon Miller, it's like you're officially saying goodbye to Dame Lillard. And we don't know yet. I mean, it seems sometimes like reports are saying that Damian wants out of Portland, maybe wants to go to Miami or trade destination to New York. But then there are other reports that we're seeing, on ESPN saying that Portland's trying to do everything they can to, continue keeping him, maybe trading that pick. And, we've seen that this pick might be traded as New Orleans is trying to get that top 3 pick, maybe either Charlotte or Portland's. We'll have to see. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about them later. But moving on, Doc,
it's interesting too you bring that up, because I'm pretty sure in our last video, or no, it was our Dame video, we brought up Brandon Ingram for the 3rd pick. How interesting. And now that's being reported.
Now it's being talked about.
It's almost like
true. We knew before everybody.
Exactly.
But moving in, to the 4th pick, the Houston Rockets, they've got to select Brandon Miller here. And, he's just the best available player. He's a guy, like I mentioned before, he's a 6'8", 200-pound guy. He is a beast, great shooter, and is touted as the best college prospect in the draft right now. Can go as high as 2. So for him to fall like this would be a bit of a surprise. And there's a lot to like about Brandon Miller as well. I know,
Amid the
Doc, that you've been
controversy.
liking him for a long time, right?
Oh, I love Brandon Miller. I mean, you remember when the season started, when the college season started, I made the claim that Brandon Miller was the best shooting forward in college basketball, and he turned out to be the best player. And I think that he has a massive upside. I just, all that controversy with how everything played out off the court, I think that's going to hurt his stock a little bit. He definitely is going to have to mature and find a good balance between his professional life and his personal life. No worries, man. You're good. I'm going to keep this rolling. All right, so with the 5th pick, that is going to be our Detroit Pistons. And I think the best move for them, see, this is a toss-up for me because Detroit has absolutely just terrible defense. And 2 guys come to mind when I'm thinking of defense in this class. I think Cam Whitmore is a great option. I also think Jarace Walker is a great option. And this is difficult because you already have your backcourt of the future, right? You have Jaden Ivey, you have Cade Cunningham. I'm kind of looking for a guy who doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective. And to me, that is Jarace Walker. If I'm saying his name right. There's a Jarace.
I've heard Jarace.
Mr. Walker.
Are you choosing him for the 5th pick?
Possibly. It's a toss-up right now between him and Cam Whitmore. I think both would fit Detroit very well, especially with what they're trying to build.
Well, Doc,
give me Cam Whitmore.
I was going to say
athleticism is just next level, and that young team, that's a good young core right there. Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, and Cam Whitmore. You're going to be beating a lot of teams just off of your athletic superiority.
Mm-hmm. And it's been reported that Detroit really likes Whitmore, and they also really like Walker. It'd be between the two. However, I've been hearing reports that Whitmore's been doing some really, really good workouts, and he could go as high as number 4. I don't think that really will happen. I think that, there's been that whole thing with Houston where they were considering getting James Harden. It's still up in the air. Woj reported it a few months back before the playoffs even started that is a likely destination for James Harden to go to. And I've been seeing reports lately that he's torn about it. He might go to the Suns. He might stay in Philly. He might go back to Houston. And if they do that, it might affect their draft pick. However, I've heard that Houston, they are still wanting to keep the best available fit, even if James Harden comes in. And so I think that's going to be affecting, subsequently Detroit, who they're going to get.
Right, of course.
They've really liked Whitmore, is what I've heard. And I think they'll go with him if he is up.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, he's somebody I really like.
All right, you get pick 6, my man.
I get 6. And a lot of the mock drafts have been talking about 2 potential guys really here. Well, I guess I've seen 3 or 4, but the most of them talk about Ausar Thompson and Anthony Black.
Yeah.
Now, my choice is a little bit easier than maybe what most people are saying. I'm going to be going with Ausar Thompson.
It's a good pick.
And the reason I'm choosing Ausar is because I think that the guy is just an athletic fiend. I've heard reports even that Houston really likes Ausar Thompson. He's a better shooter than his brother. He also had around the same amount of assists, same amount of rebounds, is touted as a better defender. He was the MVP of the Overtime Elite League when they won the finals.
Yep.
He was shooting in those playoff games. He was shooting around 40% from 3 as well, which is very promising because at the start of the year it wasn't too hot. So he's shown improvement. I've seen comparisons of him a lot like with Andre Iguodala. I'm not sure if I really see it, but I see this guy
I don't
more
know if I see that
of
either.
he's a very flexible player in terms of where you could put him.
Yeah,
I think
I
that
agree.
he's good enough and he could be a point guard, even though he's being played off ball with the overtime elite and his brother was kind of the primary ball handler. I think that he could fit very nicely as the new point guard for Orlando if they wanted. Or he could be a shooting guard. He could be a small forward. He's just a very flexible guy. He could probably guard 1 through 4 because he's a good, long, lengthy guy. There's a lot to like about him. What do you think, Doc?
I totally agree. I mean, it's no secret on this channel too that you and I are very, very high on Ausar. I mean, like I think we both have the same perspective too, that this guy could play the 1 through 3, but he just plays the 2 and the 3 because he plays with his brother. I don't think Amen could translate to a 2 or 3 the same way Ausar can. He is the better shooter. He is the better defender. He's shown that he has great court vision. What's there not to like about this kid? Plus, when there was a bunch of criticism last year about the Thompson twins and their inability to shoot the basketball, only one of them got better. It was Ausar. So I think this kid is going to be a steal for any team he goes to. I love him. I wish he could fall to the Utah Jazz, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're at number 7, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's the Pacers. So, all right, let me see here. Yeah, this is a no-brainer for me. We're taking Jarace Walker. I need a guy who's going to be able to impact the game defensively because the Pacers the last 2 seasons have just sucked on defense. They already have Tyrese Halliburton, who is going to be their point guard of the future. Like, he is their franchise point guard. He's legit. Jarace Walker is massive. What is he, 6'7", like 230? He plays hellacious defense.
I think he's even heavier than that. 240,
I mean,
maybe.
The kid could even be like a Draymond Green kind of player. Like, he just has that kind of glue, that it factor, where he just affects the box score in all types of ways. Like, and he doesn't need the ball to be effective. You put him next to Miles Turner, if Miles Turner is still there, and you're going to boost your defense quite a bit. I think that he's perfect for what the Pacers are looking for.
Mm-hmm. And it's been reported that the Pacers are really looking at Walker or Hendricks. I think between the two, they're probably going to end up choosing Walker. I think that he showed a lot of promise as a freshman going into Houston. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Played at Houston?
Yeah.
And they had a lot of older guys there playing, and he was able to be, an off-ball guy, a good passer, good facilitator, just exactly what the team needed. They became, one of the top teams in the country, and he was one of the star players there. And so there's a lot to like. And Doc, you told me about this as well, is there's been reports that if he went to another team, maybe another top team in the country, or maybe a team that needs maybe a more primary ball handler, he could have averaged much more.
Yeah, so the report I saw was if he went to a team that wasn't so focused on using their juniors and juniors and seniors the way that the Cougars did, he could have put up like 18 and 11. The reason that his stats don't they're not like eye-popping is because of the system that Houston has in place, which favors their upperclassmen. But yeah, absolutely. This kid, I would not be surprised if this kid came into the NBA. He is and just starts impacting right away. He's a great defender, and he's legit. He's legit. He's going to be the glue guy for whoever takes him.
Yeah, he seems like a fun player for sure. I'm not necessarily sold on him. As you know, Doc, I really read into the fact that each year these guys are just highly praised and loved and adored. But I think a lot of the top 10s, they end up having a few busts. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be a bust, but there's a chance that, given the fact that his shooting 3-point percentage really dropped drastically, he's not the best free throw shooter. Maybe he doesn't have the touch. And so we'll have to see. But if he fell to a team that I wanted, like the Utah Jazz, fan of the Utah Jazz, if he fell to 9, I wouldn't have a problem taking him.
Fair enough.
And let's see, moving on here, we've got the Washington Wizards. And there's been some interesting reports regarding the Washington Wizards, Doc. First of which I think a lot of people know about is the Bradley Beal potential trade. And there's a lot to kind of digest with it. I think Bradley Beal has a no trade clause, meaning that if there's something that, a team that he doesn't want to be moved to, he can just say no to it, which is kind of crazy. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would love to elaborate on that. He's actually currently the only player in the NBA that has a no trade clause. And what I found out as well is a no trade clause doesn't just give the player the autonomy to choose his team, but he actually also gets to choose the package that comes back for him that he gets traded for. That is an immeasurable amount of power that a player has. If you think that the team that you're possibly going to is giving up too much, you can actually veto that trade and make your team, your home team, give up or take less, which I think is mind-boggling. I think trying to move Bradley Beal is going to be very difficult. Shams did report that the Wizards front office is going to try to work together with Bradley to move him if they decide to tear everything down to the studs. And since their new GM got the green light from the owner, I would assume that's what they are going to do. I just don't know. I don't know how you're going to move off of Bradley Beal though. What's he making? $46 million?
Yeah,
he makes $200 million over the next 4 years. So I don't even know.
Interesting.
Yeah, there are very limited teams you can send him to. So
well, the thing that I think about it too, Doc, is that if he does find a destination that he likes, he could very well go. We have seen the Wizards kind of break even each year, and it seems like maybe their big three with Beal, Porzingis, and Kuzma is not really working out. We've seen reports that Kuzma is kind of shopping the free agency. He could very well leave. And so this could mix up everything considering who they want to draft. We've been hearing that they kind of maybe want to get a point guard as they don't really have too strong of a player in that position to go alongside maybe Beal or Porzingis, who's probably going to opt into his contract. And I've heard reports here, Doc, that Cason Wallace, this was just a couple weeks ago, less than a couple weeks ago, that Cason Wallace had a workout there. Also had a workout with Toronto, but his most recent workout was with the Wizards, and he had some more scheduled workouts, and he canceled them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are thinking that maybe the Wizards gave Cason Wallace a promise, and he might be selected at 8. But given all of this, my gut is telling me that the Washington Wizards are going to be taking Anthony Black with the 8th pick.
One of my favorite players by far. And you know what? I was actually thinking about this yesterday. If the Razorbacks had better shooters around Anthony Black, I bet he would have doubled that assist number. I really think so. I think that if you get a good shooting team around this kid, it's going to open the gates for his assist rate. He understands how to move the ball. He is not the best shooter currently. But one of my favorite things about him is Black knows how to absorb contact like a champ. He almost always gets the mismatch. As when he was playing the 1, he's almost always bigger. In fact, I don't know anyone else who was bigger in college.
Mm-hmm. He's huge.
He's not afraid to get downhill, absorb contact, and get to the free throw line. If you look at his stats too, and you watch the games, there will be games where he has 15 points, 5 assists, 5 steals, and 4 rebounds, but he only took 3 shots. And then you look at his free throw percentage and you're like, oh, I see. He just knows how to get to the line in a very Jimmy Butler-esque kind of way. I think that is a skill that cannot be taught. That's a skill that you just gotta have, He's not the best defender. He's not the worst defender either, but he is a physical specimen at the 1. He'd be great in Washington.
Yeah, I think that he's going to be a pretty good floor general. I'm not too sold on Black, but I definitely can see the upside that he has and why people will take him. He's not the best shooter, but again, the Thompson twins aren't the greatest shooters. Not even Jarace Walker's, that great of a shooter as well.
Right.
And so we'll have to see. But just watching Anthony Black, watching his tape, he is good at driving to the lane. He's good at cutting. He's a smart passer. But I don't know. We'll have to see with him. I am not as high on him as you are, but I think
love
teams
me
will
some
be.
Black, man. I do.
He does have, he could be like the next Lonzo Ball type of player who's just very impactful, good passer, like a floor general, and maybe we'll be able to improve his shot to become like that.
I'm even going to go on a limb and say this, but I truly believe it. I think that he has like Chris Paul assist potential. I would not be shocked if, like, when this kid starts to hit his prime, if he's putting up like 16 and like 10. Like, I think that he can definitely be that kind of floor general. I love Anthony Black. He's so awesome. All right. Are we at 9?
We're at 9. You're up next.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I've been thinking about this all day. Because there are so many good players right now still on the board, and we are Utah Jazz fans through and through. We bleed purple, baby. I'm just gonna roll the dice here, and I'm going with someone who has wild athletic upside. Give me Bilal Coulibaly.
Bilal Coulibaly.
Yep.
There's been a lot of reports about this guy.
Yeah, his draft stock has increased dramatically over the past couple weeks. I think if you watch what he's doing right now in the finals of the NBL, the French League, he's incredible. I mean, you sent me a video of him not too long ago. This kid is super raw, but this kid could either be a boom or a bust. I don't think there's any in between. He's a great defender. You've actually made the point, and I agree with you, that the French League, they don't really develop players the same way the NBA does. They don't really care if you're young. They care about if you're good and if you can impact winning. The fact that he's an 18-year-old playing with Victor, another 18-year-old or 19-year-old, these teenagers are in the finals, I think speaks to his potential as well. So the numbers we have up right now will be the 36 minutes fully played. That's the projection. I think he averaged like 11 or something like that, but not a bad shooter, like insanely athletic. 6'6", has a 7'3" wingspan. Look, if I'm the Utah Jazz and I have just torn everything down to the studs, I found an absolute gem in Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen, who is a fringe All-NBA player. And could potentially be an MVP candidate one day. I believe that. We love you, Larry. We know you're capable of that. Bilal Coulibaly fits the mold for a guy that I'm just rolling the dice on. Like, I think that this kid could become one of the best defenders in the NBA. Easy. He has the physical attributes to be that. And I think that the Jazz can develop him properly. I really do. I like what they're doing with Walker Kessler. I liked what they did with Ochai Agbaji. Like, this front office, even with all the changes that took place and getting a new coach in Will Hardy, they're proving that they know how to develop young talent. And Danny Ainge is just a mastermind. I mean, look, give me this kid. And I promise you in a couple years, he can be something really special.
Mm-hmm. And Wembanyama has come out on Twitter and mentioned that he is seeing that this guy might be going in the top 10, and he's saying that he should be a top 5 prospect. And there's a lot to like about.
I love that.
If you watch his tape, he's very athletic. He's able to have some pretty incredible putback dunks. Yeah. He has a really nice floater. He has a nice mid-range shot that I saw a few times that, was a little bit reminiscent of a Mikal Bridges style player. Mm-hmm. But The thing with Coulibaly, like you mentioned, I think that he's got a very high ceiling, but a very low floor, in my opinion.
He's
There's a very real
bust.
possibility where this guy is a bust.
Yeah.
And it scares me a little bit, but I would be fine with taking a swing on him. I think that there's been reports that the Utah Jazz really like him. There's been reports that OKC likes him. I think that their GM was also in France watching the finals, watching Coulibaly and Wembanyama play against, I think it was Monaco. They're still playing. I think they play today as well.
Yeah, game 3 is going on right now.
Mm-hmm. And I've even heard that Toronto really likes him, and that if he fell to 13, that they would take him. So,
oh yeah,
I think that there's a high chance that this guy does go in the high lottery, probably in the 9 to 10 range by Utah. Mark Stein has reported that Utah really likes him. He's a NBA reporter. Rafael Barlow of Draft Big Board, NBA Draft Big Board. He is
Rafael,
also.
We want to have you on the show, man.
That'd be awesome. So a lot of people are saying it, and where there's smoke, there's fire. I think that it's going to happen, and we'll see. I think that this guy probably won't be too good at the beginning. Maybe his first year is a little bit slow, but he may pick up the pace.
Yeah, something that I think also too that is really promising is he got the call from the 21 and younger Mets 92 team, which is kind of like their version of the G League. But in that league, he's averaging like 21 points per game. Like he was ripping those kids apart. And I would have loved to see him more throughout the entire season. But yeah, we're taking him. Why not? Like you gotta swing sometimes. You gotta swing at the fences, right?
And as a final note on Coulibaly, just as you were mentioning with the French league, they take winning very seriously. They don't really care as much about development.
Right.
Maybe like the G League or the NBA even. I think the NBA cares about development. You'll see them put in their younger guys to try and develop them, have them learn and grow. French league doesn't do that. They don't care who you are. They don't care who you're going to be in 5 years. You have to be good. And we're seeing Coulibaly, an 18-year-old, and Wembanyama, who's a 19-year-old, be in the finals of the French league and having starter minutes, playing 30-plus minutes, and being primary ball handlers. And that's unheard of.
Teenagers playing in a man's league.
It's crazy. It's like this might be crazy to say, but it's like if you're in like the Western Conference Finals and you see like two 18-year-olds being primary ball handlers. It's just like you don't see that,
Yeah, ever.
But he's somebody I like. And Dallas, moving on to Dallas, we've seen a lot of trade rumors with Dallas, if they might trade down, if they might trade out to try and get somebody to work alongside their crew. I personally, if they don't trade out of the draft, I could see them going for a few guys. I think Taylor Hendricks is a great prospect, great defensive player. They probably need, a good power forward of the future. Grady Dick, he's a guy that, I think will come right into the NBA and be good. He's a great shooter, probably the best, one of the best, if not the best shooters in college. And there's a guy by the name of Dereck Lively who is really rising. And I think that if I were the Mavericks, I would take Lively. And here's why. Lively was one of the top recruits in the country coming out of high school. He was a 5-star recruit, one of the best players. He didn't have the greatest showing early on at Duke. And so he started to drop off, the draft boards. But then, towards the mid to end of the season, Duke exploded onto the scene. They started beating everybody. And I think it was large in part to Dereck Lively. And Dereck Lively has just really been skyrocketing recently due to his combine and workouts that he's been showing. And there's a clip, I wish I would have pulled it up, but there's a clip of him, just at his NBA day where everybody's watching him and he makes 14 threes in a row. And so he didn't take too many shooters or jump shots with Duke, but you see that a lot in college. You see, people like, what's the guy on Miami? the center from Miami.
Bam Adebayo.
Bam Adebayo. He wasn't doing too many jump shots, anything like that. He dropped in the 20s, and then he was able to show this guard prowess, able to drive, have a really good ball handling, play with Miami. And people asked him, was like, where did this come from? And he said, I did this stuff in high school. It's just the college team didn't have me doing that. They didn't put me in the system like that. And Lively could be he could develop into something like that. He's reminiscent of a guy like Walker Kessler, who fell in the 20s, but had a really great rookie year for the Utah Jazz. Very similar in the sense that he's very great defender around the rim, one of the best rim protectors. And maybe this guy develops into a jump shooter as well, who can spread the floor. And so I think this guy has a lot of upside. I think NBA teams are starting to see that as well.
Yeah, the stat that really jumps out to me is 4.2 blocks. That's crazy. That is crazy high. And Dallas needs someone who's going to defend on that team, because Lord knows Kyrie Irving and Luka aren't going to be defending anyone. So he could definitely be a defensive anchor, and that's what they need. They need some form of defense because they traded those pieces away. I can get behind that pick too. Look, 9 points, 9 rebounds, four blocks. Kid knows his role. He knows what he is. And
I think this is per 36 minutes as well. I think it was a little bit lower, maybe like 5 or 6 points per game.
Still, those are good.
They can explode on the scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the blocks is really what sticks out to me. Dallas needs that.
Thank you for watching another episode of the Full Court Press NBA podcast. For the full podcast, click the link